everybody. Welcome back to D Squared Classroom. Today, I am really excited to introduce you to a now colleague of mine, Sonya Bhavsar, who is the Associate Director of Surgical and Pediatric Platform at Abiomed, which is a company that supports a life-saving technology for cardiac patients. Really exciting work. Hi, Sonya.
Hi, Dory.
Thanks for joining me. Yeah. So we have a really interesting story of how we met. We were both on the way to a surgical conference in New Orleans and happened to sit next to each other on the flight and got to talking. And it turns out we had this very similar career path. And so that's kind of what I wanted to focus today's interview on is your career path and kind of how you got to where you are. So yeah, let's jump in. So I love seeing women in a successful STEM career. What motivated you to go into the medical device field?
Well, it was a lot of different things. One thing that I can point to directly is I've always really been interested in technology, and I really like to break things apart as a kid, right? Like I still actually love Legos. They're still my favorite toy, even as an adult. I have no kids, but we have a house full of Legos because they're amazing. But I just kind of love putting things together and pieces together, and I kind of liked taking stuff apart and then figuring out how to put it back together. I just like that pattern and that puzzle kind of side of mechanical objects. So engineering was definitely a direction I was going to. And then in addition to that, I used to work on an ambulance. And one of the stories that I remember is I once had a cardiac arrest patient who we actually were able to get him back. And he was talking to us and we wanted to take him to a tertiary care center, somewhere where we knew he would get the best level of care. And while we were loading him up into the ambulance, his wife said, "Can you please take him to this other kind of community center?" And we were telling her, well, we really think he needs to go to the one that's the tertiary care center. It was actually associated with the university because that's where he would get the best care. And she said, well, my insurance doesn't cover that. Even if he lives through this, we're not going to make it very far. Our insurance really isn't going to cover this. We're going to be in debt. Can you please take him to the community center instead? And that was kind of one of those moments I think we all kind of have when we face what the reality is of our healthcare system.
Yeah.
And I think medical device was a way as an engineer to be able to kind of solve that equation of knowing if I designed a medical device, it would have no idea what your insurance was or, what your value was, who you were as a background. Yeah. It functions the exact same as it's been designed to do in every single patient it's implanted in. And I think that was really the second part of that story, which was, this really big interest in being an engineer and then having this kind of experience on the ambulance and just knowing that this was a way to make a bigger impact, in one's lifetime.
Wow, that's an incredible story. I mean, you think about from their perspective, this was just this woman helping them. But it turns out that might have inspired you to kind of take up this whole career, which is, it's amazing how little moments like that can be so impactful. That's amazing.
It is. Yeah.
Real quick, actually, on that subject, what was your field of engineering, just to share with everybody?
Sure. Yeah. So I actually got my bachelor's in biomedical engineering, and I did that at VCU. I stayed at VCU for my master's, and I graduated from the mechanical and nuclear engineering department with my master's. Even though it sounds like I kind of switched over from biomedical to mechanical, what it really was a focus on the biomedical application of mechanical, if that makes sense. So my degree says mechanical and nuclear, but my thesis was actually on a rotary blood pump. So same, concept of biomedical, but it really was focused on the mechanical side of that. For that, I actually went to Germany to finish up my PhD at RWTH Aachen University. That's in Aachen, Germany. And that's where I graduated with my PhD in cardiovascular engineering and then came back here to start my career at Abiomed.
Unbelievable. That's a very impressive education background. So thanks for sharing.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
So with, your experience in medical devices and specifically in cardiac devices, what changes have you seen over the years that have really made an impact on patients? And it's really inspiring to hear your story about that patient that had the cardiac event. So, what sort of changes might have happened since then, or how have you seen it applied?
Absolutely. So, medical devices is one of those fields that's fast growing. We're having new technologies coming out, every single day. And a lot of it that has to do with just as technology continues to innovate as we, continue down the generations, we're able to apply those new innovations to the medical field or be the one that's actually creating those innovations. So I think that a lot of the ease of use of our devices has made it available for those community centers, making it easier to use so you don't need that expert over at the tertiary center, but you can have it at a community center and it makes it, available for every single patient. I think that's something that has really impacted it, is having that ease of use. I also think that, specifically when we think of the field of heart pumps and heart pump technology, there has been a lot on making the devices smaller, more fitting to every patient population, and then reducing the risk benefit profile. So being able to really reduce the risk and increase the benefit to the patient so you can treat them earlier and really hopefully help them recover instead of having a really, continued progression of their disease state.
Right. All right. Well, thanks for sharing. Now we're going to do a real quick speed round. So I've done this with the other interviewees as well.
All right. Am I going to be timed?
No, just short answers. Okay. What's your favorite organ?
Oh, that's a tough one. I think I would automatically want to say the heart. Mm-hmm. It's, the heart, just because I think it's kind of this beautifully unselfish organ. When you think about how the heart works, it perfuses the entire body before the last thing it actually perfuses is itself. That happens right at diastole. So I think of it as this beautifully unselfish organ that keeps you alive. I actually find the brain a little more fascinating. And the reason being is that I think we just haven't gotten all the codes or figured out everything we can about the brain. And I think there's a lot more discovery, and it just makes it a little more intriguing.
Okay, what's your favorite medical device?
So I am very partial to blood pumps, actually. I just think they're extremely fascinating, and I think there's a long way to go. So we've gone very far in what's already been discovered and the innovations that we've created, but there's such a large runway for where we can go next that, I'm going to stick with rotary blood pumps. I just think they're really cool.
So do I. All right, last question, and it doesn't have to be related. What's your favorite app?
My favorite app. So I do love Imager, because I don't know what it is, but I love reading memes and just seeing it's kind of just the picture version of Reddit, which is a lot of fun to go through.
Oh, okay.
And then I think, the other apps I really love are kind of Amazon, because I do love shopping, and I see it almost as like, a life hack, being able to use the Amazon app to really get everything I need pretty easily. If I'm walking past a bookstore or I see a book that's on someone's desk and I think it's interesting and I have my phone, I can go ahead and just order it right away instead of having to write it down and remember it later.
Yeah, that's true.
I think those two would probably be my favorite apps.
Love it. All right. Well, Sonya, thank you so much for joining us today. I love talking to women in STEM. I think it's really important, and I think it's motivating to, younger girls and women that, may want to get into a technical field, and to see, powerful and successful women like you, I think is.
Oh, well, you're making me blush. Thank you. I appreciate that. But I completely agree with you. I think it's absolutely wonderful, to see more women getting into STEM, and knowing that STEM is not just, a scientist or an engineer. STEM, spreads across all of the industries, and you can really become anything within STEM, and having a scientific or an engineering or a mathematics background. You can go into finance, you can go into med device, you can go into practically anything. And it's always wonderful to be a part of these conversations and being able to help promote women in STEM.
I agree. Sonya, thank you so much. I'll talk to you soon.
Don't worry. Yep.
Right, bye.